We are witnessing a massive shift. Tech giants are racing for ultimate control. Beyond the hype lies the real turning point. This is where the future is being written.
For weeks now, there has been this one specific Google AI model that absolutely everyone in the tech world has been holding their breath for. I'm talking about Gemini 3.5 Pro. It was supposed to be Google's next major, high-capability model, the true flagship, right? Yet, it's nowhere to be found. So welcome to this explainer. We're jumping straight into the mystery of this highly anticipated yet glaringly missing model. Because, well, recently something really strange happened. The model reportedly popped up exactly where new AI systems are quietly tested, and then, just as quickly, it vanished. If this sighting was the real deal, it might just be our very first genuine clue that Google's missing flagship is finally getting ready for prime time. Okay, let's dive into this. The entire tech community is basically staring at this empty space on the stage right now, asking one question. Where in the world is Gemini 3.5 Pro? You really have to wonder when a model of this magnitude suddenly blips onto the radar and then instantly vanishes. What are we actually looking at here? I mean, was this just an accidental exposure by some engineer, or was it a highly intentional, totally controlled test by Google? The silence from their official channels is honestly just deepening the mystery. We're essentially left staring at a shadow, trying to figure out what cast it.
Let's see how this builds, because this timeline creates a really fascinating contradiction. Just look at what Google has actually been putting out. Over the past few weeks alone, we've gotten Gemini 3.5 Flashlight, which is built for high-volume, lower-cost stuff. Then we got Gemini 3.5 Flash Cyber, laser-focused on cybersecurity. And then, literally just days ago, Gemini 3.6 Flash, optimizing coding and multimodal tasks. Honestly, there have been so many Flash variants lately, you almost need a spreadsheet just to keep track of them all. Google is aggressively optimizing and pushing AI out into the real world. They are systematically upgrading the entire supporting cast, while the headliner, Gemini 3.5 Pro, is just chilling backstage. Why upgrade everything else except the one model we're all waiting for?
Now, what's really interesting here is that we need to draw a hard line between verified fact and community buzz. On the confirmed side of things, Google's official Gemini page simply says 3.5 Pro is coming soon. Google has mentioned they're testing the model with partners, and obviously they have definitely released all those Flash models. That is verified fact. But on the reported side, well, community evidence points to a Gemini 3.5 Pro model, or at least a checkpoint of it, briefly appearing on LM Arena before completely vanishing. We just don't know if that was on purpose or if the model is actually ready for a public launch.
If you aren't familiar, LM is basically the ultimate blind evaluation environment. It's this massive, crowdsourced testing ground where brand new, cutting-edge AI systems are quietly put through their paces by the community way before any public announcements happen. So when a model shows up there, it's a huge clue. It means the code isn't just locked away in some internal lab anymore. It's being hooked up to an external platform to see how it handles the real world. But we really have to respect the power of the word "if" here. If this reported model on LM Arena was genuine, if it was actually Gemini 3.5 Pro, if it was being evaluated publicly, then this whole ghost-like appearance suggests Google is getting incredibly close to launch. But the thing is, none of those assumptions are confirmed. And that tension, that exact gap in the data is what makes this whole situation so captivating. Incomplete evidence is exactly what creates the mystery, and it forces us to look a little closer at what might be going on behind closed doors.
So, what was the deal with this quick blip? Well, it could have just been routine internal testing, right? Maybe Google engineers were running a live benchmark to see how it handles blind random prompts. Or maybe it was a restricted partner evaluation, letting a few select groups kick the tires in a very monitored way. Then again, maybe an engineer just accidentally flipped a switch to public for a couple of minutes and we happened to catch a glitch. Or, and this is the most exciting one, maybe this was a final readiness check and they are fully gearing up for deployment. I'm definitely not going to tell you which one is true. Just think about which of these scenarios makes the most sense given Google's recent rapid-fire Flash releases.
Actually, let's transition from the mystery of the delay to the why of the delay. Reputable reports are suggesting that performance on really important coding tasks has been a major bottleneck for Google's timeline. You see, modern AI systems aren't just taking basic coding tests anymore. The whole challenge has shifted. It's no longer just, hey, can this AI write a simple Python script? The new hurdle is, can AI reliably understand massive, complex code bases, diagnose its own failures, revise its work, and actually finish long-horizon engineering tasks? That is a massive leap in capability, and it requires totally new architectures.
So the crucial point is that we're moving way past basic chatbots that just spit out text. This is about agentic AI. It's about action. These systems are designed to receive a goal, map out a full plan, use external tools,
double-check their own work, and pivot if they mess up, all completely on their own, over long-running tasks. If Gemini 3.5 Pro is being delayed to perfect these specific agentic coding capabilities, well, that changes the entire scale of what we're actually waiting for.
And look, Google is definitely not operating in a vacuum here. Just look at the immense market pressure right now. You've got OpenAI pushing the boundaries with GPT 5.6, heavily focusing on that long horizon work, computer use, and autonomous research. Then, out of nowhere, you have DeepSeek, especially with V4, absolutely shaking up the industry by forcing everyone to care about open efficiency, massive context windows, and drastically lower costs. Google is caught right in the crossfire. They're trying to leverage their massive ecosystem while simultaneously fending off the long horizon pressure from OpenAI and the crazy efficiency pressure from DeepSeek.
This whole competition really highlights a fundamental truth about the next era of this tech, the economics of intelligence. Because raw intelligence, it's simply not enough anymore. A frontier model has to be affordable to run, blindingly fast, and scalable to millions and millions of users. This perfectly explains why Google has been pushing their highly optimized Flash model so hard lately. A slightly less intelligent model that can actually do useful work at massive scale is often way more strategically valuable than a brilliant model that's just too expensive to turn on. The real question for Gemini 3.5 Pro isn't just how smart is it? It's can Google make it smart and economically viable?
And this brilliantly illustrates the macro trend here. It's kind of like an escalator of AI evolution. We started down at chat, systems that just answer questions. Then we stepped up to reason, models that think through harder problems step by step. Now we are pushing right into act and plan, agents that use tools to map out actual solutions. Up next is execute. Long horizon systems running multi-step tasks over several days. And eventually, at the very top, discover, where AI actually contributes to net new scientific research. Gemini 3.5 Pro is Google's absolutely necessary step to push us further up this escalator, moving from systems that just talk to systems that do.
But let's step away from the code and the benchmarks for a second and ground this in actual human reality. When we talk about AI that can plan and execute, imagine putting this technology into the high-stakes environment of a hospital. How will these agentic capabilities change the daily reality of a doctor trying to diagnose the highly complex patient? Imagine an AI that doesn't just pull up basic medical records, but autonomously cross-references a patient's obscure symptoms with decades of global medical research, tests out different hypotheses, and presents a fully vetted treatment plan for the doctor to review.
Or let's consider the global impact, because this is way bigger than Silicon Valley. Think about a farmer in Morocco trying to plan multi-year crop cycles. An agentic AI wouldn't just spit out a weather forecast, it would analyze satellite, soil data, monitor real-time global commodity prices, and autonomously adjust the irrigation systems over an entire season to perfectly optimize yield and profit. The true earth-shattering power of these upcoming models is how entirely different cultures and industries are going to adopt them to solve complex, real-world problems. And hey, it's not all spreadsheets and analytical work either. What about an artist in Japan using an autonomous AI as a literal collaborative creative partner? Imagine a workflow where an artist sketches out a rough concept and the AI agent autonomously generates the 3D lighting models, sources historical textures, and iterates on animation frames overnight, leaving the final creative curation completely up to the human. These leaps in technology, exactly like the delayed Gemini 3.5 Pro, represent a massive shift toward AI that seamlessly infiltrates and elevates human creativity. Now, obviously, when systems start executing tasks autonomously on our behalf, the stakes just absolutely skyrocket. We cannot talk about a shift this massive without talking about the real-world friction of deployment. The conversation in the industry is shifting so fast right now. I mean, how do you handle algorithmic bias when a model isn't just writing an email, but taking physical or digital actions for you? What happens to your data privacy when an autonomous agent needs to dig through all your local files just to complete a task? And naturally, as AI steps into more complex knowledge work, we are having very, very real conversations about job displacement and how daily workflows are going to fundamentally change. We are constantly trying to balance this utopian vision of hyperproductivity against the friction of adapting our entire society to systems that act on their own. Because at the end of the day, AI is not just code. It really is a mirror of us. When we look at all these delays, the intense market pressures, and this massive push for greater autonomy, we aren't just watching a standard software update rollout. We are literally watching humanity try to teach a machine how to navigate the very world we built. Which brings us to the ultimate question, the one that ties this mysterious disappearance of the Gemini 3.5 Pro clue right back to our own future. As we make this leap from chatbots to autonomous agents, the big question isn't really whether artificial general intelligence arrives today or tomorrow.
The real question is, how much human work can increasingly capable AI perform without us having to hold its hand and direct every single step? Now, maybe Gemini 3.5 Pro briefly appearing on a testing platform means absolutely nothing. Or maybe it was a tiny glimpse of a model that's finally going to answer that question. We don't know yet, but sometimes the biggest technological shifts in history don't kick off with a massive, flashy launch event. They begin with a single, quiet clue. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep your eyes on the horizon.